Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at a new bomber which is coming in for America. This is the B-66B and it's something that, to be honest, I didn't even think about coming to the game in terms of it, but I'm super happy to see it. Nice to see Gaijin once again bringing in another Cold War bomber, kind of bridging a few gaps between some of them. They've focused a lot on strike aircraft more recently, and strike aircraft are cool and everything, but the bombers just have a kind of ambience to them, and the B-66 destroyer is no different. This vehicle, if you have a look in the tech tree, is obviously in the bomber line, and it splits two vehicles which are pretty far away from each other in BR. You have the F-105D at 10.0, and then also the B-57s, which find themselves at 8.3. The B-66 at the moment is at 9.0, and in ground it's at 8.7, which might be a bit more tantalizing since this thing has some pretty fun demolition bombs that could be used in ground. The other thing is it's at rank 6, and this is actually quite a big, tough thing for this vehicle. So if it's a rank 5, it would be a lot better. But since it's a rank 6, that means in aerialistic, it has to take off from the airfield. And if you want to know other vehicles that struggle because of this, you can have a look at the French, with stuff like the Vautour, for example, which are in basically the same position at 9.0 and also similar speeds. So that's a pretty big hit for this thing. The fact that it's at rank 6 instead of rank 5, yeah, it technically means that you can research stuff at a kind of higher rank with it, which is kind of nice, but it neuters how much score and how much usefulness you're going to have in the vehicle itself, and it also matters a lot in terms of acceleration what this thing has enabled to get up to speed, which, to be honest, isn't too great. So when it comes to the vehicle, it has access to these right engine J71A13s. They have a 4,640 kgf takeoff thrust. You can see two of them on either side here. The rest of it is filled with a bomb bay in the center, a bunch of fuel, and also a radar in the front of it, which unfortunately doesn't seem to work. And then you have a radar in the back, which is the MD-1A radar. Now, this one is a backwards-facing radar. It is kind of designed to be able to find targets for this defensive turret here, which is a 20mm M24A1 cannon with a lot of rounds and also a pretty decent fire rate. And then you can kind of, track the target with the radar and then hammer it with the 20s. Whether you'll be able to do that or not in War Thunder will be interesting to see. It also has a gunner, which obviously is probably a bombardier and a navigator and everything too. And then also you've got the pilot, which shows that you don't have access to anything right now in terms of like CCIPs or CCRPs, which kind of sucks, but you do get the bombing sight, which is quite nice, so you can just kind of use that. There's no armor on this thing, obviously. It's a Cold War bomber. They didn't really add a ton of armor to it. The more idea was to be quick in it. And then when it comes to the modifications as well, you can see it's kind of lacking. I feel like they're going to add more bomb options to this thing because at the moment there's just this huge area where there's just nothing. But if it does stay like this, these modifications are going to be pretty pricey because of the fact that they're usually quite expensive when you have less of them. For a vehicle, you actually want it to have more modifications and not less. I know that sounds really weird, but if you have a look, for example, at, vehicles at the highest echelon of the game, if you have a look at, I don't know, like something like the AVA-B, you can see it has all of these modifications here. And that means that each individual modification is cheaper than it could be, like 13,000 on these rank 3 modifications. And then if you have a look at the 14.0, you once again have 13,000, which is quite nice. But if you contrast that to something like the A7E, for example, which is only at 12,000, even though it's at a 10.7 BR and much less than 19,000 instead of 20,000 compared to the AVA-B Plus, you can see how it matters a lot having more modifications. So this thing not having a lot means it's actually going to be harder to spade because each modification is going to be much higher in cost, and also you're going to need a lot of this flight performance to get this thing going because of the airspawn. Now, right now, in terms of its bomb loads, which of course is its main use, you have the 3,000-pound bomb M118 demolition bomb, which is kind of fun. And then also you have the standard 750-pound M117 Cone 45 bomb. You get 14 of these or 4 of these. Basically, you can see the estimated damage here, 62,900 with the 3,000 pounders, and then with the standard 750s, 5,800. So pretty decent in terms of them. The only issue is obviously you get a lot less of these demolition bombs. And this is what I mean about this probably being more useful in ground forces than it is going to be in air forces. In air forces, you have the fact that you have the really annoying spawn because of the fact you're on the ground and you have to gain acceleration. In ground, you actually, you start in the air at a bit of speed, and also you have the good old bomb thing right here. So what you could probably do with it is you could probably have a bit of fun in terms of ground. And if you've played something like the Yak-28, for example, that's something that is very similar in terms of it, where you can use all of these big old bombs to be able to annihilate stuff. Another vehicle that has a similar bomb to this is the F3D, which also could be a bit of fun. So in terms of where this gunner is able to shoot, you can see this is basically its range on both sides, which isn't too bad. Upwards, it's actually insane compared to it. So you can see you can actually fire very much upwards, and then downwards as well, it's actually quite good. So the coverage of the turret at the back is in a really nice place. And if they could actually get the radar working with it, I think that would actually be pretty cool. The other thing that this vehicle has, which is super sick, is it actually has an updated cockpit. So a lot of the issues that people talk about with bombers is that they don't get as much care as other vehicles because they don't get, these nice cockpits or anything like that. Well, look at this. Isn't this absolutely beautiful? It also has the, everything moving around, and then also the throttle, which is over there. All of the good old little dials working across the way. It's just fantastic. It's a beautiful cockpit and lovely to see. I'm super glad that they've added it in. Now, during all of this time, we've been trying to get up to speed in a straight line, and you can see that we're not even at 1,000 yet. And another problem with this, since it's designed to go fast in a straight line, if you get it above kind of 800 kilometers an hour, it also can't turn. So at this BR, where you're starting to run into supersonic machines, mainly at 9.3, you are gonna, with this vehicle, end up in a situation where you can't kind of outturn them, and you also can't get away from them because you're not fast enough. You can see that it does actually maintain speed very well in the turn, but that's just because of the fact that you aren't turning very fast. This is literally as hard as I can turn with all of its modifications right now. Now, if I slow down a little bit, we could turn a little bit faster, but at the same time, if you're at these speeds, you're probably already dead, and that is one of the biggest issues with this type of vehicle. It does have an air brake, which is kind of fun in the back of it. You can see it there. So that's pretty awesome. And also, it does have some pretty beefy landing gear. But even at kind of like 650, you can see that we're still kind of struggling to turn with this thing. And that is a big issue. So for me, this just seems like very similar to the Votor. Really cool to see, and will have a little niche when it comes to ground because of the 3,000 pounders. But if its flight model stays the same, it's going to be really hard to use in other modes because of the fact that it just turns so badly away from certain things. Not even being able to break 6Gs is nearly half of the competition.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.